You've spent years begging for him to change, to spend more time with you, to treat you better, to be more like the man that you first met. And sometimes I bet he seems to kind of get it, right? He nods, maybe he even apologizes, he promises to try, and then he goes right back to his usual, neglectful, argumentative, manipulative, mean. You're replaying the same fights thinking, how can he hear me speaking and still do the same thing over and over again? How can he not understand that his behavior is hurting me? So you keep explaining because he says he doesn't understand and he claims 10 toes down to be trying. But what if he does understand? What if he understands exactly what you mean and he just doesn't care to change? Convincing you that he will change is the game. That keeps you hoping and trying again and saying it differently and being softer and clearer and using examples and analogies and timelines and anything that you can think of that might finally make it click for him. It's confusing because you know that if you treated him how he's treating you, oh, he'd sure care. Don't miss the fact that that's proof, by the way. If you accept that he already understands and is just choosing to not do better, then you might stop trying. He doesn't want that, so he pretends to try, to not get it, to keep you in this crazy-making cycle. Well, here's 8 ways that you can tell that he gets it, but that he doesn't want to change. And I'm saving the most common crazy-making reason that women think he's changing, but actually isn't, for last. When behavior stays this consistent, confusion is not the cause of it, I'm telling you. The pattern is the answer. You tell yourself that he's trying, right? You see progress, kind of, sometimes. You tell yourself that he's, traumatized, stressed, emotionally immature. His mom didn't teach him how to be in a healthy relationship. No, this is a choice to not change. And once you see his pattern, you can't go back to over-explaining anymore. I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a relationship coach who specializes in abusive and toxic relationships. And I work with women every day who are just stuck, hoping. Hit subscribe. What shows up again and again is something so much more organized than him just not getting it. And once you see his organization, you stop personalizing what was never about how hard you try, because it doesn't matter how hard you try. Okay, number 8. He only understands when consequences show up, consequences for him. Suddenly, he changes, even if it's temporary, right? But only when he is affected, not when you explain things so calmly, not when you cry, definitely not when you beg. It doesn't matter how well you lay out your argument or explain it. He understands when something he values is finally at risk, right? You pull back, you stop doing things for him, you stop making his dinner, doing his laundry, whatever. You stop chasing him to spend time with you. You might mention leaving, divorce, separation, whatever. You actually walk away from the argument. That's when he suddenly gets it, right? He understands how serious you were. Suddenly he reflects. And I know we see this as kind of like an epiphany, right? He didn't know what he had till it was gone. He didn't know what he had until you talked about leaving, right? Well, suddenly he shows like he's remorseful. He knows exactly what he did wrong. And I guarantee you, he uses the exact words that you've been trying to get him to say for years, because he knows that works. Well, when change only shows up after he feels it, that tells you everything. He didn't care when you felt it. You don't matter in the equation. He does. And it's not an epiphany. He only cared when he was affected. And tell me in the comments if you can relate to this list. Now, number 7, he repeats the same garbage behavior, but with slight differences, right? And once you notice this, you're not going to be able to miss it, okay? Watch. He stops yelling, okay, but now he kind of sighs loudly or shuts down. So he's still ending the conversation, but he's using a different tactic to do it. He doesn't want to listen. That's the common thread. He might stop cheating, but now he openly flirts. He doesn't hide it anymore. He tells you that you're insecure for overreacting. Meanwhile, what happened is in the past, and you need to just trust him again, right? That's the problem. You don't trust him. That's what needs to change. He stops calling you names, but now he speaks kind of calmly and he'll still dismiss everything you say. Maybe he doesn't call you stupid anymore, but he treats you like you're stupid. The form changes, not the impact. The impact still hurts you. You're still drowning in anxiety. I bet you're still walking on eggshells. You're managing his feelings, figuring out when to tell him that he's not actually doing better, when to offer him some feedback. But let me tell you, this is where something called the sunk cost fallacy really kicks in. You've invested years of energy and love and effort, and he seems a little different or a little better, and you tell yourself that you can't leave when he's trying. You feel like he's almost there, right? There's a carrot dangling in your face. Your past investment starts to feel like a reason to tolerate what he's still doing instead of a reason to just stop doing this at all anymore. Number 6, he tells you that your pain is just a misunderstanding, right? Every time you bring something up, it turns into some discussion about communication instead of his behavior. He didn't hurt you, you misunderstood him. He didn't cross a line, you just took it the wrong way because you're still very sensitive, right? He understands that you're just too sensitive. You're just reading into it. And he insists that you have to give him the space to change, right? You have to show a little bit of appreciation for how hard he's trying. So now, instead of him taking responsibility for the impact, you're here explaining your tone, intent, you're sort of softening, you're giving context, and you're trying to explain your emotional reaction that was a very human reaction to begin with. Notice what never happens. He doesn't say, okay, I see how that hurt you. I won't do that again. He says, that's not what I meant. He said that he would start taking accountability, right? That's why you stayed, but you're not actually seeing it. And the conversation isn't about how you were hurt. It's about whether or not you're even allowed to feel hurt at all. Turning harm into misunderstanding protects him. It means that he doesn't have to change anything and you just keep getting stuck, explaining yourself instead of deciding to leave him. Number 5, he needs you to explain the same thing over and over and over again. If everything is always some kind of misunderstanding, then of course it needs to be explained again. You didn't use the right words, so explain it again and again and again. And you've had this conversation with him 100 times, 100 ways. Calm, emotional, logical, gentle, firm, loud, quiet, on Saturday, on Tuesday, whatever. You've given examples, analogies, articles, you've shared videos, you've shared your tears, your exhaustion, and every time you walk away thinking, maybe he gets it. He seems to get it this time, right? He finally understands. Nothing changes though, because understanding was never the issue. What do I keep saying? He knows. The constant explaining is not helping him learn. It's keeping you invested and super emotional, and he wants that. Men who don't want to hurt you don't need years of explanations. They adjust because they want to change. It's that simple. The fact that you're still explaining tells you something that you've been avoiding. Ask yourself why his boss doesn't have to explain the same thing 400 times to him. He understands all kinds of things. Keeping you explaining is the game. Now we're at number 4, but number 1 is coming, and that is the one that I guarantee makes you the most furious. Number 4 is that he counts basic human decency as massive progress. He starts pointing out what he isn't doing anymore. He hasn't even yelled at you in a week. He hasn't cheated in months. He didn't blow up this time. He didn't insult you during this argument, right? So you're expected to notice and appreciate it. You're supposed to thank him. Where's the reward for him, right? Give me the reward. You have to be patient because he's trying. And I'm telling you, this man wants a balloon for not calling you a B word. But look at what's being measured. The absence of harm and abuse. Not care or safety, not consistency, just moments where he restrained himself. He is telling you how hard he's trying to be good, which speaks volumes. But take note, it's hard for him to even be decent. Listen to him. He's telling you that it is natural for him to be mean, and he's working hard to just stop being awful. So you lower the bar and you feel guilty for questioning it, and you tell yourself, hey, progress is progress, right? It's getting better. And now leaving feels wrong, and you can't leave when he's trying, right? Because then the guilt kicks in. You can't leave when he's almost there. Meanwhile, you're still being abused and neglected and mistreated. Number 3, his progress just disappears the moment that you feel even remotely comfortable or relaxed. The second you stop monitoring him, things are going to slide. When you stop reminding him to be kind or reminding him to go to therapy, if you stop correcting him, threatening to leave, you pull away emotionally, his old behavior comes back like that. The effort was conditional, and it existed because you were watching, you're coddling him, you're encouraging him, you're giving him little claps for the most basic things. And that tells you that the change is not internal, right? Real change, it actually happens when a person wants to change. He can't change for you or his kids or because you told him how to. That's how you know it's totally performative. It's pressure-based. He doesn't want to lose control, so he pretends to change. And that's not that hard in the short term. That's why we say long, consistent, ongoing change is the only way to really see this. All in all, this is why you're exhausted, right? You're in a friggin' management role. It's not a relationship. Real change does not require constant supervision from the person being hurt, I might add. Now, number 2, he promises change that requires no actual loss on his part, right? He talks about working on himself and doing better and wanting to change, but I want you to really look a lot more closely. What is actually different in his life, right? What discomfort is he tolerating? What control is he giving up? What power dynamic is shifting in your relationship? I bet it's nothing. I bet it's the same routines, the same priorities, the same entitlement, and you're asked to wait for this growth. Meanwhile, you're living with the exact same impact, but he doesn't care about that, right? Change that costs him nothing isn't change. He's just delaying things. Promises without sacrifice are just these little placeholders that are meant to keep you there. Maybe he's going to therapy. People say these men don't go to therapy. Sure they do. They go all the time. Some do, some don't. They learn how to be better manipulators. Going to therapy looks like change, right? Therapy only works if you're honest. And the truth is, and everyone hates when I say this, but the truth is therapy doesn't change abusive men. Go back and watch my video, Why Therapy Can't Fix Abusive Men, The Truth About Misogyny and Mental Health, from season 1, episode 5 of my podcast, Relationships Uncensored. I interviewed therapist Aisha Grevenberg. It was crazy eye-opening. Okay, number 1, when you question the change, he flips into victim mode. Oh, these abusive men, they love to play the victim. The moment you question whether anything is actually different, you're the problem, right? You expect perfection. My God, nothing is ever good enough for you. You're so impatient. Why do you expect change overnight? You're so unreasonable. God, you're so negative. The conversation stops being about his behavior and it becomes about your expectations, right? You never give him credit for all the work that he's doing. That's so unfair. How dare you? This is how the system protects itself, right? You're not allowed to evaluate reality. You're not allowed to say, this hurts me. This still doesn't feel okay. This doesn't feel like change, or call out anything that hurts you anymore, because the moment you do, you're punished. He sulks and he gets defensive, shuts down. I bet he lashes out or rages at you. Speaking up is the problem. So if he's trying, you can't be pointing out any issues now, right? Apparently, that's not fair. But notice how fast the conversation shifts. You're not talking about the behavior anymore. You're defending your right to even bring it up. You're explaining that you're not attacking him. You're reassuring him, babe, I do see your effort. I do. Thank you for not calling me a B word in the last 14 days. You're giving this man balloons and gold stars for not cheating or not screaming at you. You're trying to make it safe for him to hear you. And before you know it, the original issue is gone. The only thing left is how hard this is for him to stop being abusive and cruel. It's DARVO. Deny that he's still abusive, flip it to attack your feelings, and then reverse victim and offender. You're the problem because you can't get over the past. The past is still happening, mind you, but he doesn't want to talk about that. So when you zoom all the way out, everything's going to finally click. The apologies, the progress, the relapses, his promises, the reason nothing ever truly stabilizes or gets better. The relationship only moves when you're hurting or about to leave. That says something. Your pain is a trigger for him, right? Your distress is actually what activates effort, but only temporarily, and it's never authentic effort. So when your suffering creates movement, suffering becomes part of how the relationship works. You have to suffer. Abusive men want you to suffer. That's why waiting hasn't worked and never will work. That's why explaining hasn't worked, because you're not dealing with somebody who didn't understand. You're dealing with someone who understood enough to keep things exactly the way that they were when they're benefiting him. If he only changes when he's about to lose you, that is not growth. This is pure control. And if you want support getting through this and kind of staying steady in what you already see, work with me privately, or you can join one of my group programs or be part of She Rises Collective, my monthly membership community where you get 24/7 support. Drop a comment if this hits home and subscribe for more. And remember, you are not asking for too much. You're asking the wrong person.